Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. Yeah, it's interesting because, a lot of you have really seen a lot of the openings, and, we've done a lot of shows over the years, and literally, sometimes I'll have a thought in my head, or I'll have a piece of music, or somebody like the last show or one of the shows, did a play that didgeridoo, but when I opened this time, literally nothing was in my head, and there was no idea, no thought, and then what I was getting was just a feeling in my heart. And the feeling in my heart is that this is such an extraordinary opportunity for us to really, really be together and really bring about these new paradigms and really bring about a world where love is at the heart, and connection is at the heart, and collaboration and cooperation and creativity and joy and bliss. And that this is our time as we watch these shows, as we come together, as we live our lives in this busyness of our lives, in the families, in the countries, in the religions, in all the things that we as humans do, that now is the time for us to transcend and go beyond and experience that grandness, that vastness, that universalness, that unconditional love, that recognition of who we really are. And that the more we can have that recognition, the more we can have that experience over and over and over and over and over again, that we too can recognize as the great teachers and the great healers and the great masters, that the Goddess and I, the Father and I are one, and that we are one, that we come together as one on this experiment on planet Earth. And the trick is to come back into that knowing. The trick is to come back into that truth. And now is our opportunity to do that on a really global scale, on a way that almost is unimaginable to the thinking, the reasonable mind. But so much shifting, so much change, so much enlivened love can propel us into a new world, a world where love is at the root, where love, a beating, healed heart, a heart filled with unconditional love, a heart filled with a recognition of our oneness, of our connectedness, of our infinite and included experiences. And really, tonight's guest has dedicated her life, and we're really fortunate because we've only done this once before in literally 16 years where we've had a guest, and we felt that it was appropriate to do 2 shows in a row. I mean, Selacia did the show we did earlier today, and now she's doing this one. And she's an internationally known writer, intuitive healer. And she's been a guide to literally millions on the path of spiritual awakening. She's the author of an extraordinary new book, Your Guide to Earth's Pivotal Years, a direct path to enlightened living. And she's involved in this project or this movement, this series of divine change makers, of how we individually can collectively bring about those new paradigms, those new divine changers that we all know are necessary to bring about this world based on love. And these divine change makers, her goal is to have that reconnection with the spiritual self through children, through pets, and her own divine change maker series. And we talked a little about the Divine Changemaker series on the last show, but we'll really get into it this time, and we'll really get into how we individually and collectively can heal the heart of this planet, how we individually and collectively, joyously and lovingly, collaboratively and creatively, can come together as one. And as most of you know, we normally show beautiful music videos, art videos, And we have two beautiful videos tonight, one of an extraordinary didgeridoo player and healer, Paradiso, and another extraordinary singer, Leah Scallon. So we have two of those, and as most of you know, we're in the middle of an international healing art project that came as a vision, as a dream, as a healing, as an acupuncture for the planet. And that we would use the bridging format, the bridging distribution system that reaches people all over the world. And anybody who produces a new original piece based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth and gets it to us here, any size, any format, any skill level, any age, everyone is welcome to produce a piece, and there have been pieces produced all over the world of all different sizes, all different formats, all different mediums, from all different people with different skill levels, from the most world-renowned artists to 2-year-olds, literally. And everyone is welcome, and the more people who are involved, the better the healing. And tonight we have two beautiful pieces, really extraordinary pieces. Isabella Sinsanka and Carol Wilson have produced two pieces. So again, it's an opportunity for us individually and collectively to come together, to watch this show, to have an experience, and to take that experience, of the recognition of our internal oneness and take it out into the world and build these new paradigms, to be these divine change makers. So join me in a short meditation, then we'll have the first Paradiso video, and then we'll have Isabella's art and Carol's art, and Selacia's with us again, and what an honor it is. So join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So the first video we'll see tonight is Healing Vibes at the Ocean by didgeridoo artist and healer Paradiso. So Healing Vibes at the Ocean, Paradiso. Enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome back. So Paradiso, healing vibes at the ocean, beautiful didgeridoo. Thanks for letting us share that with the world, and thanks for Suzanne Doucette and Frank Schenker for making that available to us as well. So, thank you. And then we have another piece from their album that they made available to us as well that we'll play later with Leah Scallon. And the extraordinary piece you sing in between Selacia and I is a digital art piece from Toronto, Canada, Isabella Sinsinska, and it's Making Love 20,000 Leagues into the Stars. Making Love 20,000 Leagues into the Stars. And it's digital art. And she's an extraordinary artist, and her website is www.izzipics.com, izzipics.com. And go look at her stuff. It's just so amazing. And again, anybody who wants to be part of a healing, wants to be part of a collaboration, wants to be part of a creativity, please join us. And we'll put the art on shows. We have art exhibits. The art project website is so powerful and so beautiful. And the more people involved, again, the better the healing. So please join us. It would be very good for you to be part of such a beautiful explosion of love. So speaking of explosions of love, well, welcome first. Welcome again.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's great. And so we were talking actually as part of the last show, and I talked about it a little at the opening about divine change makers. I know it's really something that is a strong focus of yours. Why don't you kind of talk about what you mean by that and how we bring that about, and go on that.
Yes, the divine change makers, which I really introduced in my new book, Earth's Pivotal Years, are those beings like you and me who are here, waking up to our divine nature, first of all. We are divine. And waking up to conscious creation, taking responsibility for our creations and moving into our divine power. And that's a theme actually I've been focused on for a very long time, divine power versus ego power. And in fact, back in 2000, I addressed the United Nations about that topic. And way back then, of course, even back then, it was an issue on this planet. And it still is today. The whole idea of how we do power on this planet. It's very dysfunctional. And so we are in the process, all of us, of changing that paradigm. Changing from a society that is so driven by aggression and fear and competition, we could destroy ourselves. It's that kind of power that we are in the process of changing. And so each one of us moving into our own divine changemaker role is becoming aware of these things and moving into our own divine power. And it's a much different kind of power. It takes a different set of skills. And we don't have much training for that in the world. So a big part of my work is helping people with that. Not only through private sessions and the DNA work, but also through this brand new Divine Changemaker series.
Why don't you talk a little about that and how you set it up and what its intention?
That series is really something that began coming to me over the past couple of years. And as you probably know, things do not really come into fruition until it's time. And it wasn't really time until the last part of last year when I started to get more of the outline of it. And then over the holidays, traditionally over the holidays is when I take some downtime, some input from Spirit, and really get a sense of, well, what's next? How can I be of the most service to the most people, and what is really needed now? And this is when that came to me, the various elements of it. And it's really an experiential kind of course over a number of weeks where the people involved will have an experiential process. And they'll have my involvement, they'll also have a group of other divine changemakers all around the world. For our first course that we're starting next month, we have people on every continent that will be in the class. And so it's a collection, it's a community. And it's also knowing that not only there are others out there doing spiritual growth and working on themselves, but they're working on these kind of processes at the same time that you are. And that's very empowering.
And describe the processes?
There will be a number of processes that will be building over the initial one will be 4 weeks. And each week there will be process for the person to really contemplate on. There will be specific tools they will be given and things they'll be working with. And then we come together at the end of the week after having a personal check-in with me during that week, and we'll do a group process and a guided meditation and process.
And is this all cyberspace, all internet-based, or is it?
Yes, it is all cyberspace, but it's also connection. There's a personal connection, and there's a group connection. So
but
that means
not
people,
in the same location.
Not in the same location. We have
physical.
people in Europe,
Right.
South America,
Okay.
Asia,
Okay.
and we're all coming together. Isn't that what we are?
Right.
We're one planet.
Right.
We're one human family.
And the beauty of the internet in that way is there's no time and space in
Yes.
that way. You know, so yeah, go ahead.
And it's also, I'm approaching it really, it's a way to reestablish how we learn. And it's helping us to change our focus, because what most of us were conditioned with was very punitive. It was very rigid. For example, if you got an assignment from a teacher on a Monday, and you didn't look at it on a Monday and get it done, then what? So this is not like that. This is really on each person's schedule. There will be information given out, and each person on their own time frame will work with it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, doing things joyously and
Yes.
lovingly.
It's to have fun with it, really.
Right. Right. And then, go ahead, so talk more.
So it's really applying a different way of learning and also developing oneself and one's connection to the divine, to spirit, and having that be more integrated. And the people coming to this initial course, the ones who have signed up for the first one, they are already connected, but it is going to a deeper level. And you see, the deeper levels are really needed now, because this is not your ordinary moment that we're living through. These are times of very massive changes, unseen by any generation before. We need new tools, new processes, and a deeper connection to ourselves and to spirit. And that's what this course is designed to do.
And so take us through it a little. Take us through how we would move through a course like this.
As I was describing, it will be individual
and collective.
And the individual processes, they will be given out each week, and each person will work with them in their own way. There will not be.
But is there like an overview that, in terms of dealing with like power issues, as we describe power, is there a definition of power in this context? Is a definition of, are there definitions, or are there guidelines? Or
yes, there will be. There will be a focus to each part of the series.
For example, why don't you take us through some
For example,
of the
in the first part of the series, it will be about change. And not to really get into the exact processes, but it will be having each person develop, first of all, a different relationship with change, and a different relationship with the many changes not only already happening in their lives, but the new ones coming in, because that is going to be essential in moving forward. That is going to be essential in each person being able to stay in their power and not go off on some deep end. And so there will be specific processes given out in each week, and they will be building. And then again, there are these, once a week we'll have the guided group process as well that will relate to that.
Mm-hmm. And so in your intention with these guided processes, there will be input from the entire group.
Yes.
And feedback from the entire group to serve the whole.
Yes, there will.
And then, and it's a living organism, so as it goes along.
It's a living, breathing organism. It will be changing week by week. I have a lot of it already, not only in my mind, but some on paper. And as I've learned with everything else I've done over the last several years, is that to remain fluid. It changes day by day, sometimes hour by hour. Sometimes as students are gathering for something,
Right.
I'm getting a whole new thing.
Right, it's alive.
So it's about being fluid.
Right. Yeah, we talk. There's a lot of breaths between here and there.
Yes.
So
And it's also allowing for where people are at.
Right. Yeah, dealing with the situation as it exists.
Yes.
Not the way you wrote it a week before.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we talk about for the show that, we plan it out. I mean, to make it look easy and to make it look smooth. I mean, a lot of people put in a lot of time, and we've done a lot of them. And we say on each show, we start out on plan A. And by the time we actually do the show, we're on plan double J.
Yes.
We've been through the alphabet once
Right.
already. And so at the opening, I introduced this section to talk about, divine change makers with animals and children. How do you see all that fitting in and being part of the process in that way?
Yes, well, one of the things is that both animals and children are like a conduit for our inner selves and for our connection to spirit. Each one of them in their own way helps us to connect, and I'll give a couple of examples. One is with children. As we observe children, whether or not you have children of your own, or if you go out and see children in the street or that neighbors have, you will notice that unlike some adults, perhaps in your sphere, children have a curiosity. And children are always asking questions. Children have an openness. And children also are very much impacted by their environment, and they're very telepathic. And there are a lot of abilities that the children have that adults have as well, that the children can remind us of.
That we've kind
and
of
help us to connect with.
covered
Yes.
up and buried and
Yes.
conceptualized and habitualized otherwise. And
Right, right. And quite often, what I will hear from my clients is that their children will bring up things that even relate to another time and place that they couldn't have possibly known unless they really remember that time and place. And the children will simply come out with it. And I'll give you one example. A mother may be driving around Los Angeles, and her child is in the back seat and saying, "Mommy, do you remember in the 1800s when we went to this other place and it looked just like that building?" They will say things like that because they remember.
so are you noticing in your practice that has spanned a number of years that children, and we talk about them as indigo children or star seed children, that there are more and more people coming in with those gifts unforgotten, those
Yes.
remembrances?
Much more.
And so they're available to really be helpful to the adults who've built these barriers?
Yes. Yes, I say look at the children as teachers. We are teaching them, of course, but they are teaching us.
With a certain openness of spirit, a certain living in the moment.
Yes, and also look
spontaneity.
to the children to notice, because they will mimic your patterns. They will mimic even some bad habits. So if you watch the children and you see them picking up on some things, you will have a sense of what to look at in yourself. Because it did not come from nowhere.
You think it has something to do with you? I would say it probably does. And animals, the same thing, an innocence.
Yes. Yes. Animals also are our teachers. And one of the biggest things that animals teach us is about unconditional love.
Even cats? Because they're a species unto
Very
themselves.
much. They're very independent.
They're independent
Yes.
as well. But,
Yes,
but they do have unconditional love.
they do.
But they are on their own a lot.
Yes, they are on their own.
I have a cat who's
So they
That's
have
right.
their own unique spin on things, don't they?
right. They certainly
Yes.
seem to, for sure.
And
Different
their-
than dogs, for sure.
And their own timings.
Right, right. It's interesting. And so this is, all these things are going to be incorporated in this divine change maker, what to look
These
for, what to
kinds of
see,
things,
these
yes.
kinds of like points of notice, points of interest, kind of. And can you touch on some others that would be of value for people to, keep an eye on, keep an alertness to?
Well, for each person to be more in touch with what their ongoing thinking is on things. In other words, their train of thought. Because that's not a random thing. And so that's one way that we uncover what our belief systems are. And not all belief systems are negative. Some actually support our enlightenment. Not everything is bad.
Right.
So, but when you find yourself in worry mode, or you find yourself when you think about what your hopes and dreams are, and you tell yourself, no, I can't have that, I'm not ready for that, those kinds of things, then there are clues there about patterns you carry on a DNA level. So that helps you to understand what it is that needs to be cleared.
And we were talking a little earlier about that there's almost like a collective energy that isn't necessarily your energy, but somehow you take it on, and it feels like yours, and you make it yours, and it makes you crazy, and you don't know. So why don't you talk to that? I mean, I'm sure you see that a lot, because there's so much.
We do. And that actually, what you're talking about here is the mass consciousness. And that's actually a proven field of energy. Science has proven that. The mass consciousness, we all have responsibility for that. We have created that over time, over a long period of time. It isn't just from this generation.
Right.
And we're adding to it all of the time. And we're shifting it by how we think, by how we live. And we're very much impacted by it. So what I recommend to people is, let's say on a given afternoon, you are feeling in a wonderful mood, all excited about something, and then on the way home, all of a sudden things turn sour, and you're not sure why. So one thing I recommend people do is really tune into themselves and ask, is what I'm feeling, is this my own energy? Is this something within me? Because it could be.
Right.
Is this something in my neighbor or someone I care about? Or is this in the mass consciousness?
Well, even if it's in the mass consciousness, it doesn't have to like trigger something in us. So, I mean, the Indians have, say, an expression, if there's no place for death to enter, it won't. Is there the same thing with mass consciousness? If there's no place?
Yes, it does. It does trigger things with us. Yes.
So it ultimately has something to do with us anyhow.
Yes, it would have something to do with us. You're correct.
So even if we're feeling that way and it's basically not ours specifically, it's hitting something in us specifically.
Yes, yes. Right.
Because not everybody is subject to mass consciousness in the same way, right? If you have enough momentum, then kind of those things, unless it's so powerful, will kind of bounce off you like water off a duck.
Yes.
Yes. So we have that potential to close that off in a certain way by being so in the moment, so in
if there's
love.
Nothing to be triggered, then nothing is triggered.
Right, if there's nothing sitting up to trigger.
Right.
And
energy doesn't lie.
Right.
Energy is very real.
Right. Okay, so yeah, I think that's a really good place to end, and we'll start again with some really interesting. I'm like a lot of questions are bubbling up within me. So we'll see the second video again. Thanks to Suzanne Doucette and Frank Schenker for making these videos available. It's Leah Scallon, Citrine, and it's from the album Crystal Keys. The images are by Brian Exton, and the video is by Suzanne Doucette. Leah Scallon, Citrine. Enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome back. So Leah is really a talent, isn't she? Citrine, Leah Scallon, and again, thanks Suzanne and Frank for making those beautiful videos available. And the extraordinary art piece you're seeing in between Selacia and I is by Carol Wilson, Spirit Bird. It's an oil on canvas. Carol's from Westlake Village, California, United States. And when we started this art project and we let Carol know about it, she was really one of the first people who just immediately said, yes, I want to be part of this, yes, I want to be part of the healing, and produced this extraordinary piece. And we haven't shown it in a really long time. And then when Selacia was looking around, she said, oh my God, that piece really fits. So we said, it's, and it's about time we showed it again. It's such a beautiful piece. And it's been up in the studio here as well. So Again, join us. Join us in the healing, join us in the collaboration, join us in the creativity. So everyone's welcome. So Selacia, we're back, and we're back with a beautiful piece of art.
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that lovely? Mm-hmm. So you were talking a little earlier about animals, and now we were talking a little bit about the break, about the more expansive nature that they can be of value to us. Why don't you talk about that a little more?
About animals in particular?
Right.
One thing is giving us a hint of what needs to shift on the planet and even their own plight. They will come to us and telepathically tell us if they're in need of something. And as an example, I do these global meditations that are both a healing for each person and for the planet. And quite often before I do one of those, I will get a honeybee come to the window and communicating to me and to us before we have the event, for us to include them in our prayers, because they're threatened right now.
Well, it's seemingly and actually clearly on some level that all the disharmony is creating almost malfunctions in so many of the species in the ocean.
So many areas, yes.
In so many areas.
Yes.
And we talk about that as the roots are all poisoned because the root is toxic.
Yes.
So the leaves are going to be really symptomatically sick. And so part of this healing is to go to the root, go to the DNA,
yes.
go to the heart of it. So
yes.
talk to that a bit.
Right. So the root of it is in each person at a DNA level that comes from past conditioning. Past conditioning that has the person judging, has the person in fear, has the person wanting to be controlling, power over instead of divine power. And those things, and quite often, do not come even from this lifetime. They come from patterns the person has taken on, either from the lineage, that means from the ancestors, and it can be generations ago. It's not necessarily the person's parents. It can be from past lifetimes. I mean, because these patterns have been ongoing on our planet for such a long time. And so what has developed over time is taking time to change. However, there is an acceleration, and one thing that's encouraging for me is not only understanding that we can change these things in the DNA, but that so much of us, so many of us are doing this, and also there's such an acceleration in the waking up process. There's more and more people all the time realizing the state of the dysfunction. We're seeing it all around us. So this is society becoming aware of the dysfunction and aware of the need to do something. And there's a movement of really its spirit within us that is calling us to come together and to find solutions. And that's what will be needed. We're not separate beings, we're all connected. And we must remember this.
We need to experience it over and over again.
Yes.
Because it's not really a thought or a reason. It's an experience.
Yes, it is.
And that's what all the tools and techniques throughout history and all your,
yes.
in
yes.
essence, are to bring us into that experience,
right.
literally over and over again.
Right. And what I say to people will ask, well, what is healing about? And really, at our core, at our essence, no healing is needed. We are love. We are pure joy. We are totally at peace. The only healing that is ever needed are these dysfunctional patterns. And that is what the healing is about. So it's clearing away the layers of dysfunction, and they come off a layer at a time. It's not an instant process, although it is greatly accelerated. Mm-hmm. Everything's accelerated right now.
Or it's so traumatic that
yes.
we need to heal from the healing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If something so traumatic happens that it cuts through a lot of stuff, it's somewhat traumatic to the physical body and the emotional being.
Yes, but keep in mind
that things are changing.
Things are changing, and that whatever it is that is being addressed, if it's yours, it's not really yours. It's something you've taken on.
Right.
And you can leave it.
It's not part of your essence.
No, it's not anything you need taking forward. We want to lighten the load, lose the baggage.
Yeah, we talk about ascension in a way as like, we have weight in our backpack, our concepts, our ideas, and if we can start letting those go, we start standing up. Why are we getting screwed by the society? Well, we're in that position in a certain way. And if we stand up, it's a harder angle, and then if we lift off,
yes,
and then you're enlightened or whatever term you would want to use, but you're not so susceptible, like we said, to all the ups and downs and the nooks and crannies and the rights and wrongs of this world, because you've experienced the infinite over and over again.
Yes.
And that's where your momentum lies.
And that's what we're here to do.
And that's what we're here to do.
And anything that takes away from that, we're here to look at that with courage.
Individually and collectively.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And the more we can do it
To see what is there
individually.
because it is there anyway.
Say that sentence
To
again?
see what is there because it is there
It's
anyway.
anyway. Right.
Yes.
And to see it neutrally and clearly,
Yes.
without all the ways that we could see it, to see what we want to see and disregard the rest, kind of, but to see it.
Yes.
And so that's the state that all these tools and all these healings and all these adjustments and all these divine changemaker classes or series ultimately are to bring us into that experience over and over again.
Yes, yes. And we are moving into a time, this is the other really positive thing about being here now, is that things are becoming much more transparent. It's not simply a word they're using in politics, the transparency. It is happening in our society. And one of the reasons is technology. One of the reasons is that we're now aware of ourselves in all these different places. We're now connected in a way we never were before. Things cannot be hidden. There are going to be very few secrets going forward. And we're going to be seeing this increasingly over the next several years. And that's part of the whole enlightenment process, part of the ascension process.
Yeah, we have this expression, I'd like to hear, what your take on it and just to expand on it. So we say, whatever you think you are, you're more.
Yes, yes.
So why don't you talk a little about that and how that flows through your work and play?
Yes.
And
Well, really, it goes back to what our early conditioning is, because very rarely is someone raised with unconditional love that teaches that person they can be anything they want to be on any timetable.
And not to define yourself smaller than that infinite.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Instead, we learn such different things, very conditional, and all these comparisons and so on. And so what happens is when a person starts to step into their power, starts to step into their truth and their authenticity, there are these other parts of the person that then come in to block that. And so part of the path of the divine changemaker is allowing those things to come up so that you can heal them and see them, and then moving through them so that you can be free.
And how would you describe the process? Is it just by shining light where there was darkness before, or is there a process? Or
There are many different processes underway. Sometimes with certain issues, all you need to do is see something very clearly, finally, for the first time. A lot of times we think we see something clearly, but we haven't seen all facets. And if we can, through a number of different processes, it's not all one process, see all elements of something and accept it, we can let it go. So what I'm saying is there are many different approaches to this.
but ultimately you want to see it from a neutral place.
Yes.
And see almost that it's not our core.
Right, it's not you.
It's not you.
No.
And it was something you added on like a shirt.
Yes,
that you can
or
take
something
off
one of
and-
your ancestors did.
Right.
And that's often, too, why some people, they will come to me and they will have something start to bother them that was never an issue before.
Because it's rising up.
It's rising up.
As the energy rises in
Yes.
them, it rises up.
And perhaps there was some catalyst. Perhaps they were working in an environment where 3 of their colleagues were let go. And they never felt insecure before
But lo
about
and
work
behold,
or anything.
but lo and behold.
And all of a sudden they start thinking of these things.
Right.
And it could be because of some ancestor a really long time ago that had lived through some kind of atrocity, some kind of famine or something where they lost everything. And it could be this kind of catalyst now, not just in their own life, but also seeing the grand landscape. When you look around on our planet right now, there's a lot of those things happening. So this
fear
could
can
be
really
catalyzed
rise its
in this
head,
person,
right.
and it wasn't even really perhaps going to be their issue any other lifetime, but this is a very unique lifetime. This is the lifetime where
The cleansing
we
is
have all of
happening.
these things come up.
Right.
Sometimes simultaneously, many things.
Yeah, that was in one of your last newsletters.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, here we go. Yeah, it is interesting because, and you know what else I've seen a lot recently is a lot of people said, I thought I was through with that.
Yes,
You
that
know,
is quite
about
common.
certain
That's what we
things.
say. Well, we want to be through with it.
Right. And we did deal with it to a
Yes, we
certain
did,
extent.
to a certain level.
Right. And now we got to go deeper and cleaner.
And one way to tell if something is really totally gone is when we don't think of it anymore, when we have no bad feelings, when we really have let it go. Then there's nothing left.
Right. Yeah, right. If there's no place for, if there's not something, that expression, no place for death to enter, the same kind of thing. And so this is a really incredible time in terms of so many of us cleansing and,
Yes, it is.
and perfecting that surrender in a way. Why don't you talk about surrender and what that means to you?
Surrender, that's a really good concept to talk about. Some of it has to do with simply letting go with what has arrived in the moment and being able to move into forgiveness of whatever is that just arrived. And realizing we're in charge of our responses, but we're not in charge of everything that shows up on the front door. So it's moving into more of an allowing, and also finding more of a skill of going inside to our own inner wisdom instead of being in reaction mode.
And that would lead into discernment.
Yes,
Okay,
very much
talk to that.
discernment, yes.
Right. Because we don't have to invite everybody who's in the door in.
No, we don't. We
Right.
don't.
Even though we're forgiven, even though we surrendered, even though we're loving,
Right.
not everybody belongs.
And also it's discerning information. That's one of the key things about being here now. Because there are so many channels coming in from everywhere,
Right.
unlike any other time.
A lot of people are getting a lot of information.
There's a lot
And there's a lot of way
incoming
for it to
information.
go
Right.
out with the internet and
Right.
YouTube. And
Right, so there's, the media, there's dreams, there's through people. And so it's really learning then to have a discernment filter and really questioning
what
you
feels
hear.
right to you.
Right?
And knowing the difference.
And realizing not everything you hear, for example, or you see on the internet, simply because it's on a respected website, is true.
Or by a respected person.
Yes.
That you respected in
Right.
the past.
There might be a part of it that's
Right.
true,
Right.
but maybe not the whole thing, and maybe it's not really true for you. Maybe it's not even anything for you
That
to
has
be
anything
concerned
to,
about.
yeah, it has nothing to do with you.
So
in that
think about
level.
how much time people really spend on that kind of thing.
Yeah, enormous amount of busyness on that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
So,
Okay, I think this is a really important point. How do we develop that inner knowing? And I think it's what we've talked about literally for 2 hours now. We're getting, to the end of this hour, and we had a whole other hour, more or less. So, but if we could capsulize in how people could come into their own inner knowing, not wait to go to a session with you, which would be beautiful, not wait to go to a guru, not wait for the full moon, but internally, moment to moment to moment, how can we come in and rub up against that and know the difference?
all right.
Okay. Good.
Very simply put, number one, realize that everyone has that ability. This is not for some special people, not for the psychics out there. It is for you. It is for everyone. And you have that ability. And it is simply, number one, remembering in the moment that there's someone to ask besides the outside authorities, because that's what our training is from the time we're very young.
Right and wrong.
Right?
And
Right. Who's going to tell us this and that?
What the rules are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so taking a moment, when you have a decision, for example, and you can practice this, pretend like there's no one to ask.
This
Maybe
is the
there
first
is.
time it came up.
Yes.
And you're the only one who can
Right.
decide it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So
okay.
pretend there isn't someone in the next room who has an opinion, right?
And they do. We know
They have
that.
many opinions, right?
We can generally assume that.
So take a moment and still your mind. Still your mind of the mental chatter and the noise, and go within for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask some questions. If this is appropriate, and how does this relate to me? Because so much of it is really in the questions. And I didn't realize until I was much older, I thought everyone asked questions like I did, and that everyone would really know what to ask. And I didn't really understand until I got on this healing path where I was helping people in the way I do now, that many people, part of their conditioning is to feel like they cannot ask.
Yeah, there's a right and wrong answer.
And like no one will answer.
Right. Or it's already written, either
Yes.
in the Bible or
like
in
someone
society.
else knows.
Right, right,
Or feeling silly about asking.
right.
And in fact, they have the answer. And sometimes even in the simple asking, the answer comes to you. It simply does. And one thing I suggest to people when they do work with me privately is to write me a note in advance of the session about what they want to focus on. And I can't tell you how many times the people have told me that two or three of the things they were going to want to focus on in the session were resolved by the time we had the session. They thought about it, they wrote it down, they cast it out to the universe, and it was answered. And we can all do this. The answers are there. And they will come in very simple ways. It's not always some big booming voice. It's not always a big angel showing up. It could be you ask a question and you're driving along and you look up and you notice a billboard that has the answer.
And you know that that's the answer for you.
The
Or
billboard could say the
Right.
end. You could have asked,
Right.
is it time to end the relationship? You get the billboard. That's your answer. The end.
Right. And we have to be,
Yes, you have to pay attention. Right.
And be open to
Yes.
the answer.
Yes.
Right.
And I go into some of those things in my book.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, 30 seconds, again, on this area about, and it's an important area, about discernment and internal knowing. If you could give somebody 20 seconds on what would be the best way to do that.
All right, first, you are here on the planet now to be a divine change maker, and that means taking in information, questioning it, and coming up with your own response, and beginning to trust yourself. Beginning to trust yourself more than you trust what's out there.
Okay, well, I think that's it. That's all we need to begin to trust yourself. Okay, if anybody wants any information, Selacia, her incredible new book, call me, Alan, 805-687-2053. The Art Project, the videos, 805-687-2053. Good night. We love you. God bless you.